Hello, everyone. Hi, hello. My name is Clara, and this is Jess, and welcome to the Community Cooperative and Recasting the Movies production of Pride and Prejudice. We are so excited to present this to you tonight. The Community Cooperative does many things, and but the grand mission is to create a socially accepting, and genuine connection community. And we do one of these shows with recasting the movies every year in order to serve that mission. We love partnering with them because recasting the movies works really, really hard to make sure that we have inclusive and diverse film, theater, media environments.
That's right. And as the founder of Recasting the Movies, I'm dedicated to casting that is diverse, inclusive, and instrumental to the interpretation of the story. This reading is an adaptation of Jane Austen's classic Pride and Prejudice, and it's adapted by the wonderful Kaela Mei-Shing Garvin for the stage and beautifully tweaked for the Zoom platform.
Yes, and this weekend we're also celebrating National Write Down Your Story Day as a part of this grand scheme of why we wanted to do Pride and Prejudice, but we would have done it anyway. So March 14th is National Write Down Your Story Day, so we wanted to bring you this story in order to celebrate that. It is one of the most widely read stories among others of Jane Austen's, where she wrote about her life and her experiences in the society that she knew.
With this play and the One Act Plays contest, we encourage you to write down your stories and share your life. We also recognize that theater is about the art of storytelling as well as performance, as we move from writing your story down to the celebration of the practice of oral storytelling with International Storytelling Day on March 20th. The information for that activity will be in the description box. We also always support a nonprofit with a portion of our ticket sales. Since this year is all about diversity and performance, we chose the Ghetto Film School. Ghetto Film School is an award-winning nonprofit founded in 2000 to educate, develop, and celebrate the next generation of great storytellers. Learn more about them at ghettofilm.org.
Okay, and that's what we're doing. So be prepared. Prepare to get into the story, so listen, share, discover the follies and vices of others, as Jane Austen would say, as we experience Pride and Prejudice together. The cast members are from all over, Maryland, New York, LA, all over, and including Sydney, Australia, London, England. I can keep going forever, but I want you to see for yourself. So welcome our performers and enjoy yourself. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to Pride and Prejudice. Netherfield is let at last. A middle-class English drawing room. The Bennets are arranged throughout it in a classic tableau, as if they are a painting. Mr. Bennet frowns over his letters. Mrs. Bennet is perched above him, smoothing his hair as he swats her away. Jane is trimming her hat. Lizzie is reading a tattered book. Mary is seated at the piano, mid-caterwaul. Kitty and Lydia are fighting over ribbons.
It is a truth, universally acknowledged, that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife.
The Bennets break their tableau, coming animated. Mary plays the piano and sings badly.
My dear Mr. Bennet, have you heard that Netherfield Park is let at last?
I'll sing you 12.
Mr. Bennet!
Brushes,
Give that to me.
Those are my ribbons. I bought them myself.
You've stolen it. That's my ribbon.
Mr. Bennet! Mr. Bennet! Mr. Bennet, why do you not answer me?
A moment's peace, that's all I ask.
In this house, Father.
Netherfield Park is let. Have you heard? Mrs. Long has just been here and she told me all about it.
I'll rip your hair out.
I'll pluck your eyelashes.
Do you not want to know who has taken Netherfield Park?
You want to tell me, and I have no objection to hearing it.
Well, my dear, you must know. Mrs. Long says that Netherfield is taken by a young man of large fortune. from the north of England.
A young man?
Of large fortune.
What is his name?
Bingley.
Is he married or single?
Oh, single, my dear, to be sure. A single man of large fortune, 4,000 or 5,000 a year. What a fine thing for our girls.
How so?
My dear Mr. Bennet, how can you be so tiresome? You must know that I'm thinking of his marrying one of them.
One of us?
Is that his design in settling here? Marriage?
Design? Nonsense. How can you talk so? But it is very likely that he may fall in love with one of our daughters, and therefore you must visit him.
I see no occasion for that.
Mr. Bennet, how can you abuse our children in this way? You take delight in vexing me. You have no compassion for my poor nerves.
I have a high respect for your nerves. They are my old friends. I have heard you mention them with consideration these past 20 years.
Oh, you do not know what I suffer.
But I hope you will get over it and live to see many a young man of 4,000 a year move into the neighborhood.
It will be no use to us if 20 such should come, since you will not visit them.
Yeah. What is that you work on? I hope Mr. Bingley will like it, Jane.
We are not in a way to know what Mr. Bingley likes, since you will not visit him.
But you forget, Mamma, that we shall meet him at the assemblies, and Mrs. Long promised to introduce him.
I do not believe Mrs. Long will do any such thing, for she has 2 nieces of her own. She is selfish, a hypocritical woman, and I have no opinion of her. Oh, don't keep coughing, Kitty, for heaven's sake. Have a little compassion on my nerves. You tear them to pieces.
Kitty has no discretion in her coughs. She times them ill.
I do not cough for my own amusement.
When is your next ball to be, Lizzie?
Tomorrow, fortnight.
Aye, and Mrs. Long does not come back till the day before, so it will be impossible for her to introduce him, for she will not know him herself.
Then, my dear, you may have the advantage and introduce Mr. Bingley to her.
Oh, impossible, Mr. Bennet, impossible. When I am not acquainted with him myself, I mean, how can you be so teasing?
What say you, Mary? You're a young lady of deep reflection, I know. Read great books and make extracts. No? Well, Mary's adjusting her ideas. Let us return to Mr. Bingley.
Oh, I'm sick of Mr. Bingley.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, my dear, but why did you not tell me that before? If I'd known as much this morning, I certainly would not have called upon him.
The room erupts.
You didn't.
Let him answer. Let him answer.
But I knew I should persuade you at last. I'm sure you loved your girls too well to neglect such an acquaintance. Well, how pleased I am. And it's such a good joke, too, that you should have gone this morning and never said a word about it until now.
And now, Kitty, you may cough as much as you choose.
Oh, what an excellent father you have, girls. In our time of life, it is not so pleasant. I can tell you to be making new acquaintances every day, but for your sakes, we would do anything. Lydia, my love, you are the youngest. I dare say Mr. Bingley will dance with you at the next ball.
Oh, I'm not afraid, for though I am the youngest, I'm the tallest.
You are not.
And 2.
Oh, if I could just see but one of my daughters settled at Netherfield and all the others equally married, I shall have nothing else to wish for.
What are your 12? 12 apostles.
The first ball. A sea of dancers, lively music. The company dances a gavotte. The crowd parts to reveal Mr. Bingley, Mr. Darcy, and Caroline Bingley. Lizzie pulls Charlotte Lucas out of the crowd.
Oh, careful, Lizzie, you block my view. That's Mr. Bingley there and his sister Caroline. I find him rather dashing. Him? Why, that's Mr. Darcy.
Ah, Mr. Darcy.
I hear he has £20,000 a year.
20,000? What does he do with it, do you suppose?
I cannot fathom.
He must be in possession of at least 2 residences. Do you think he will stay at Netherfield long?
Oh, Lizzie, look. Mr. Bingley is asking Jane to dance.
It's true. Mr. Bingley takes Jane's hand. Mr. Darcy remains by the side of the room, surly.
They look well together, don't they?
Quite well. Have you danced yet tonight?
I've been obliged to sit down due to the scarcity of men.
You would think Mr. Darcy would choose a partner under these dire circumstances.
In the absence of men, we might choose to imbibe.
Let's.
Charlotte and Lizzie head to the punch table. The dancers swirl around them. As the dance ends, Charlotte and Lizzie find themselves near Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy.
Come, Darcy, I must have you dance. I hate seeing you standing by yourself in this stupid manner. You'd much better dance.
No, I detest it unless I am acquainted with my partner. Such an assembly as this, it would be insupportable. Your sister is engaged, and there is not another woman in the room who will not be a punishment to stand up with.
Well, upon my honor, I've never met with so many pleasant girls in my life, and several of them uncommonly pretty.
You are dancing with the only handsome girl in the room.
Mr. Darcy indicates Jane.
Oh, she's the most beautiful creature I've ever beheld. But there is one of her sisters just behind you who's very pretty, and I dare say very agreeable. Do let me ask Jane to introduce you.
Which do you mean?
Mr. Bingley indicates Lizzie.
She is tolerable, but not handsome enough to tempt me. You had better return to your partner and enjoy her smiles, for you are wasting your time with me.
Mr. Bingley returns to Jane's side.
I'm sure he did not mean for you to hear him.
Good intentions ought not excuse bad behavior.
My dear Eliza, why are you not dancing? Mr. Darcy, you must allow me to present my daughter to your dance partner.
Indeed, sir, I have no intention of dancing. Do not suppose I move this way in order to beg for a partner.
Lizzie!
Would you allow me the honor of your hand?
I'm sorry, Mr. Darcy, I cannot. And I hear you dislike dancing in any case?
Oh, you excel so much in the dance that it is cruel to deny me the happiness of seeing you. And though this gentleman dislikes the amusement in general, he can have no objection to oblige us for 1/2 hour.
Mr. Darcy is all politeness.
Oh, he is indeed. But my dear Lizzie, we cannot wonder at his complacence. Who would object to such a partner?
I'm sure some might find me merely tolerable.
Mr. Darcy, do you know of what she speaks?
I cannot say that he does. Excuse me.
Jane and Lizzie after the ball. The Bennet house. Lizzie and Jane are alone.
Mr. Bingley is just what a young man ought to be. Sensible, good-humoured, lively, and I never saw such happy manners.
He is also handsome, which a young man ought to be if he possibly can.
I was very much flattered by his asking me to dance a second time. I did not expect such a compliment.
Compliments always take you by surprise, and me never. What could be more natural than his asking you again? He could not help seeing that you were about 5 times as pretty as every other woman in the room. You have liked many a stupider person.
Dear Lizzie.
You are a great deal too apt to like people in general. I never heard you speak ill of a human being in your life.
But I always speak what I think.
And so you like this man's sister, Caroline, too, do you? Her manners are not equal to his.
I am much mistaken if we shall not find a very charming neighbour in her. In fact, she has invited me to visit Netherfield tomorrow if Mamma will lend me the carriage.
Why, Jane, that is wonderful news. I know Mr. Bingley to be partial to you. Perhaps he might fall even more in love when you come visit.
Mr. Bingley is far from falling in love with me.
I overheard Mr. Robinson asking Mr. Bingley which lady he thought the prettiest. Bingley answered immediately, "Oh, the eldest Miss Bennet, beyond a doubt."
Well, that is very decided indeed. That does seem as if, but however, it may all come to nothing, you know. Mr. Darcy is not so well worth listening to as his friend, is he? Poor Lizzie, to be only just tolerable.
It would be a misfortune to be liked by him. Mrs. Long told me last night that he sat close to her for half an hour without once opening his lips.
Miss Caroline Bingley told me that he never speaks much unless among his intimate acquaintances. With them, he is remarkably agreeable.
If he had been so very agreeable, he would have talked to Mrs. Long.
I do not mind his not talking to Mrs. Long, but I wished he had danced with you.
I can safely promise you never to dance with him.
His pride does not offend me so much because there is an excuse for it. One cannot wonder that so very fine a young man with family, fortune, everything in his favor should think highly of himself.
I could easily forgive his pride if he had not mortified mine. If I were as rich as Mr. Darcy, I should not care how proud I was. I would keep a pack of foxhounds and drink a bottle of wine a day.
Then you would drink a great deal more than you ought. I should take away your bottle directly.
You ought not to seem prudish when you visit the Bingleys, my dear sister. They seem a lively sort.
I shall do my very best.
Mamma shan't lend you the carriage. I'm sure of it. It looks like rain.
Lizzie visits a sick Jane at Netherfield. Netherfield drawing room.
Lizzie Bennet has nothing, in short, to recommend her but being an excellent walker. I shall never forget her appearance this morning. She really looked almost wild. Why must she be scampering about the country because her sister had a cold? Her hair so untidy, so blousy. I hope you saw her petticoat 6 inches deep in mud.
I thought Miss Bennet looked very well when she came in this morning. Her petticoat quite escaped my notice.
You observed it, Mr. Darcy, and I'm inclined to think you would not wish to see your sister make such an exhibition.
Certainly not.
To walk 3 miles, or 4 miles, or 5 miles, or whatever it is, above her ankles in dirt, and alone, quite alone. What could she mean by it? It seems to me to show an abominable sort of conceited independence, a most country town indifference to decorum.
It shows an affection for her sister. That is very pleasing.
I have an excessive regard for Miss Jane Bennet. She is really a very sweet girl, and I wish with all my heart she were well settled. But with such a father and mother and such low connections, I'm afraid there is no chance of it.
I think I have heard you say that their uncle is an attorney in Meryton.
Yes, and they have another who lives somewhere near Cheapside.
If I had uncles enough to fill all Cheapside, it would not make them one jot less agreeable.
But it must lessen their chance of marrying men of any consideration in the world.
Lizzie enters, petticoat caked in mud, carrying a book.
Do you prefer reading to cards? That is singular.
Miss Lizzie Bennet despises cards. She is a great reader and has no pleasure in anything else.
I'm not a great reader, and I have pleasure in many things.
In nursing your sister, I'm sure you have pleasure. And I wish my library were larger for your benefit, but I am an idle fellow.
I am astonished that our father should have left so small a collection of books. What a delightful library you have at Pemberley, Mr. Darcy.
It ought to be good. It has been the work of many generations.
And then you have added so much to it yourself. You're always buying books.
I cannot comprehend the neglect of a family library in such days as these.
Charles, when you build your house, I wish it may be half as delightful as Pemberley. But I would really advise you to make your purchase in that neighbourhood and take Pemberley for a kind of model.
On my heart, I will buy Pemberley itself if Darcy will sell it.
I'm talking of possibilities, Charles.
I should think it more possibility to get Pemberley by purchase than by imitation.
By the by, Charles, are you really serious about hosting a dance at Netherfield?
It's quite a settled thing.
I should like balls infinitely better if they were entirely different. It would be much more rational if conversation instead of dancing were the order of the day.
Much more rational, my dear Caroline, I dare say, but less like a ball.
Caroline stands to do a lap around the room.
Miss Bennet, let me persuade you to take a turn about the room. I assure you it is very refreshing after sitting so long in one attitude.
Of course.
Mr. Darcy looks up.
Do you wish to join us, Mr. Darcy?
Certainly not. I can imagine but two motives for your walking, and by joining I would only interfere.
Can you understand him, Lizzie?
Not at all. But our surest way of disappointing him will be to ask nothing about it.
My dear Mr. Darcy, what can you mean?
You either are in each other's confidence and have secret affairs to discuss, or you are conscious that your figures appear to the greatest advantage in walking. If the first, I would be completely in your way, and if the second, I could admire you much better as I sit by the fire.
Oh, shocking! How shall we punish him for such a speech?
Tease him, laugh at him. Intimate as you are, you must know how it is to be done.
Mr. Darcy does not like to be laughed at.
That's a disappointment. I dearly love a laugh.
Are you writing a sister, Mr. Darcy?
Indeed.
Is Miss Darcy much grown since the spring? Will she be as tall as I am?
I think she will. She is now about Miss Elizabeth Bennet's height, or rather taller.
I never met with anybody who delighted me so much. Such a countenance, such manners, and so extremely accomplished for her age. Her performance on the pianoforte is exquisite.
It is amazing to me how young ladies can have patience to be so accomplished as they all are.
My dear Charles, what do you mean?
Hello, everyone. Let's pause for a second. So,
Is that the voice of God?
for some reason, there's something wrong with the live stream, so we're gonna have to reset everything.
Fair enough.
For some reason, like, this hasn't happened in either of the shows we've had before, but for some reason, there's like, it's showing, not everyone's video is showing, and some people whose videos are off, they're showing the boxes, and it's very weird.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on.
So thank you all for being super patient, audience. We will be right back.
So what are we doing? Okay, let's try to figure out how we can fix this.
Just please stop the live stream.